Good morning to everyone, and thank you for taking time off to join us for this small webinar where we're going to talk about how to get rid of the AV equipment, so to speak, when not in use in the table. The idea is we are talking about designing technology with the smallest footprint on the furniture design. Giving the chance that the table designers that we respect their design and their work, and at the same time we can have all the technology needed within the table. My name is Henrik Holm. I'm the CEO of Holm, and we will start this webinar in just a minute from now. If you have any questions, you're welcome to ask them during the presentation. As it is a live presentation, the answers will come when we're finished with the presentation. You just have to stick to the end to get the questions. If you need to get in contact with us, there will also be a web or email address, marketing@alberal.com, where you can contact us, or you can write your email address in the questions and tell us to contact you on the side, and we'll do that after the Q&As. So what will happen is that I'll switch off my camera to make sure that we have the best possible quality, and then we'll start the show now. So enjoy. So let's talk about how we can have the AV equipment within the furniture without upsetting the furniture designer, the architect, or the interior designer. Let's have a bit of background on what we are doing and why we're doing it. So timing. In 2008, we created Holm. At the time creating Holm, the material chosen was the material that was being used a lot in 2008 and 18. Holm is a brand under Alberal Display Solutions, and Alberal Display Solutions, the professional division, was created in 1994. So we have been around for quite some years now. The material that we start using for our products was aluminium, stainless steel, and glass. Aluminium, stainless steel, and glass is what represents Holm. It's a very pure material. It's material, for example, for the aluminium, that when we mill it, we can shape it exactly in the shape that we would like to have, getting the finishes that we want to have. And it's material that has a long lifespan, and that also means that the products that we manufacture, they stay the same. They don't change the color, they don't change the surface, they don't get fragile with time. And what we have seen is that the products that we installed 15 years ago, also under the Alberal name, are still there. They're still the same. Of course, the technology within the product is long gone, so they're being upgraded today to full digital and full HD resolution. Style. When we came out in 2008 with the style and with these materials, that was the material that was being used everywhere. Today, we don't see that much stainless steel and aluminium. It is the style or the trend are changing, and the products are actually also changing as well. So if we look back at the first Holm monitor, that was how it looked. The first one didn't have glass, and then later on we added the glass. An installation from that time, and a bit later on as well, we got the glass on it. We have the framing of the glass with the aluminium, and you see you have the two speaker or the two microphones on the side. So in the beginning, we were just doing the monitor. Then we had touchscreen. Then we started adding microphone, buttons, connectivity, conference systems, and so on. So we actually start adding a lot of products and buy a lot of accessories to the main product, the monitor. So what happened was that the products start growing. So when the products start growing, it start getting a bigger impact on the table. Here we have both fingerprint reader, we have card reader, we have channel selector, we have a speaker, we have a microphone on the side, USB connectivity. So the product start becoming really big and start creating a much bigger impact on the table. For some people that is disturbing, and that was why we investigated what could we do. So the large impact on the design, as we see it here, we needed to find a solution for this. So we created the solution that we call UnderCover. The UnderCover is a motorized hatch that is separated from the rest of the product. And the product is installed from underneath. The whole idea is that you can veneer the UnderCover to fit the interior or the material of your table. There are some restrictions to thicknesses. Some products can take 5 millimeters, some can take up to 8 millimeters, and all depending on what kind of product it is. One of the reasons for not having a really thick veneering is also that you have to look at that when it moves around within the room or if it stays open. So we're trying to make it as slim and as thin as possible. So a lot of people have during the time asked us, what's the difference between underneath installation and UnderCover, since both solutions are installed from below, so underneath. So the underneath installation is our standard product where you veneer direct on the product. And the UnderCover is where you have a separate hatch that can move separately from the rest of the product and give access to your functionalities. Let's say that you have a unit on the UnderCover where you have power connectivity, where you have microphones and screen and so forward, but you're not interested in having the screen up all the time and using the microphone and the conference system, for example. Then that's the UnderCover version that you're going for. You open the hatch and you can individually lift and lower your microphone, your display, and so on. This is an example of a Dynamic 3 that is underneath installation, which has the veneer attached to the back of the monitor. So the UnderCover, this is what it looks like when it's retracted into the housing. You only see the cutout in the table. And when the monitor is up with the dynamic torque on the side. So in this case, today you can control these parts individually, meaning that you can have the screen up without the microphone or vice versa. And this gives you more flexibility and more possibilities. The reason why we want to retract and the products is when you're having a meeting and you're no longer using the screens in the presentation, you don't want to have a barrier between you and the rest of the participants. And that's why we retract them and it disappears when not in use. Here, another example of an UnderCover where we have retractable cable, we have 220 power, multiple connector for multiple regions. We have the dynamic share input selectivity. We have USB, we have DisplayPort, we have powering, we have AG45 connector, and we have also a microphone on the side. And when it's closed, when it's veneered with the table material, the only thing you see is the cutout. So the hatch. Table manufacturers have been manufacturing solutions where our monitors was pushing a wooden hatch to open. But that kind of a solution had an impact on our products. And when there is an impact on our product, we would like to control what impact it has on our product. And therefore, we created the UnderCover solution, where we know the impact on our products and we have control of this impact. Because before we didn't know how heavy the wooden hatch was. We didn't know how to deal with it, as we didn't know how it was hinged either. And therefore we created a solution that is also easy for the table manufacturers to use and to implement. As long as they follow our instructions, we can control and we can help out. And therefore we created AMMC, AH-AMMC. So what does that stand for? That stands for Auto Mechanical Movement Calibration System. And what that system does is that when we have added the veneer to the hatch, there's a setting on the product that allows us to make an auto adjustment to the factory settings. So without having to do anything further than just going into the menu on the product and press auto calibration, it will go in and set with the new weight of the veneer to the company settings. When I have said that, of course, there's a limitation. There's a limitation to the thickness of the veneer and also to the weight. But as long as these are respected, then the auto calibration will work. So what products can be undercovered or can be veneered? In this case, we can do it for the dynamic torque as a separate standalone unit, for the dynamic monitors. Now we're also including the dynamic speaker, the speaker that comes out in the middle of the table that is motorized as well. Our connection boxes, our dynamic connect, our cable copies, and our dynamic cable retract. These are the products that currently we can go in and veneer. On top of that, there are some new products coming out, also for the table, where we can hold conference cameras, and that one can be veneered as well. In this case, it's a product that is designed to be retrofitted into the table, and therefore we can hold a large thickness of the veneering. Recently, one of the big hits in AV is conference cameras. Conference cameras has been going out to everybody due to the coronavirus, as we cannot at the moment sit together. So video conferencing has increased a lot, and therefore we have also created new products that fulfill the current demand. That product will be available in a month's time. So if you want to know more about it, write us your email in questions and we will send you information on it. Just say a dynamic vision table, that is the lift for conference cameras to be placed in the table. Here we have an example of our cable copy or our connection box. This is a two-hatch solution where you press down on the thinner hatch and the larger hatch will open up. It will give you access to your connectivity. And when connected, you can close the hatches. They'll close around the cable or around the power supply without damaging any of them. And it will more or less be out of sight. If it is a big power supply that you're connecting, then the hatches can close around it. And if a part is sticking up, of course that will be visible, but it will disappear almost within the table. So when we are veneering our products, what happens to control? As you probably already know, we can remotely control all our products. We can daisy chain them and so on. But we can also add buttons or sensors, as we call them, that is visible within the veneer, or they can be hidden below the veneer, or we have the possibility of putting a button interface on the edge of the table. That is a separate box with a cable that goes to our product, and therefore you can control the devices that you have on the cover. Going back to the hidden sensor. The hidden sensor is a sensor that with just moving your hand on top of the product will activate the product. And there are some restrictions to this. That means that the veneering that you're putting cannot be too thick the veneering that you're putting cannot be conductive. But if you follow our instructions on how to veneer this, then that works fine. And again, you can get a completely seamless installation. So we've been talking a bit. I've been showing a bit of different types of installation, and I think what really gives a good idea about what UnderCover means and what it can do to an installation. Here I have a video that shows, let's say, not the most typical, not the most fashionable type of installation today. When I say fashionable, I mean it's not what is currently the fashion within furniture design and so on. But here we do a job, and I think we do it really, really well. You'll see that the monitors are all UnderCover. We also have microphone. We have other connectivities here, and they completely disappear when the monitors are out of sight. The bigger monitor that moves in the background, or the TV, has nothing to do with us. We have the Holm product that you see are the monitors in the table itself. So how do we do it? Veneering the product, we're getting a lot of questions, and it can be done extremely straightforward and easy. This is a small video we shot doing an exhibition in Milano a couple of years back. The product is a connection box, a cable copy. I have already put down the double-sided tape. The material in this case is painted MD or lacquered MD, so it has a very smooth surface. And I start by placing the larger part onto the product, onto the double-sided tape. I'll get into a bit later why we are talking about double-sided tape. Some people are getting afraid when we talk about double-sided tape, but double-sided tape is being used in a lot of different industries, and there's a lot of different qualities. Of course, it's important to choose the right type of double-sided tape. But you saw I put a couple of pieces of tape, so I have like handles onto the part I want to place, and I want to glue onto the hatch. Now I'm replacing them on the thinner part, so it's easy to move them, it's easy to adjust them. I have already laid down the double-sided tape. I'm removing the paper that protects the tape, and by making sure that I have full access and it's placed in the right position and I have the right air around it. Now I'm doing this freehand. I could actually also do it by placing some, let's say, cards or smaller piece of toothpicks around, or to create the right distance between the different hatches and also the table. But as I have done it several times, I'm just doing it freehand. But this is all that it takes to place it in. Some table manufacturers will say now, oh, is this enough? Or don't you have to stick it? Of course, this will be great to put some clips on it to make sure that the glue have time to toughen and so on. Depending on what you're using, on the double-sided tape on the glue in this case, there's instruction for how long you should keep it under pressure, for example, and how long time you should leave it sit to make sure that you get the best bonding between the material. So the cutout, as I have mentioned, if it's a new table, the cutout is CNC routed into the shape, and it creates the different levels that you need within the table. We are providing all the information you need to do your job. We do recommend, as you're the expert in creating furnitures, that you take a piece of material, the same material as you're doing in the table. You make a cutout, you make your routing into that. You try either with a dummy unit or with a working unit to see how it fits. Some of our table manufacturers that are working with our products for years, I think they just go straight ahead and follow our drawings. and do the cutout and do the inserts to mount the products when they're mounted from below. Here's an example of a cutout that's from our instructions. It also comes with the support to then hang the monitors. The supports that we have also has flexibility in adjustments. And here you can easily, when the product is hanging in the support, you can easily center the product with the nuts, tighten it up to the table so you get exactly the right amount of air between the products that are moving or the parts that are moving and the table itself. Here it's shown a bit on this kind of product, the maximum thickness of the veneering, and you can also see the edge of the product itself that will go into the cutout. So thickness, all depending on what product it is, there are different thicknesses. Again, these instructions are given within the product, but normally it's from 3 up to 8 millimeters that we are working with. And as mentioned, there are different ways of placing the veneer, depending on the material, depending on the thickness, especially when we have a sensor built in as well, as the sensor is a type of a radar that cannot go through a too thick a layer. So if the layer of the veneer is thicker, then we will have, as you see in the center, we will have a base plate with the veneer on top. So where the sensor it's closer to the veneer and therefore giving the right conductivity so that we can use it for activating and disactivating the product. Again, all these instructions come with the product. They can also be delivered up front so that you can prepare and you can see how you and which one you want to choose for your table design. So bonding or gluing, it's a big question. We are talking about double-sided tape. We are talking about glue. A lot of table manufacturers, they will always, or a big part of them will always be using glue. That's what they're used to gluing the wood and the different material that they use together with. But in this case, we are talking about electronics. We are talking about products where the surface that we're gluing to, it's either aluminium surface or a metal surface. We do recommend that double-sided tape is being used, and a double-sided tape that is thick enough to compensate for the irregularities within the two products that you're gluing together. So the painted surface from Holm and whatever your base material may be. So why double-sided tape? It's a question we have gotten a lot of times. The reason why we use double-sided tape is because we are able to remove the veneer. The products that we design and the hatches, the chances of them going wrong is extremely small. But in case it does, it would be nice if you can remove the veneer without damaging it. And that is possible with when we use double-sided tape. Therefore, that is recommendable. Double-sided tape, technical, professional tape is more than strong enough to hold the veneering in place. The veneering itself is the material that you are using as the finishing of the table surface. It can be wood veneer, it can be leather, it can be stone, it can be metal, it can be vinyl, linoleum, whatever material that is chosen for the table. But one thing for veneering, and especially for veneering in wood, is that you need to have a base structure to put the veneer on, as the veneer will be too thin. And here, the table manufacturer will know much better than us what fits that veneer, so it doesn't change its shape when placed on our monitors. So normally a stable material is chosen. What we have seen is a composite material, metal, and of course also wood as the base. But it's important that when the veneer is being placed on the base that you create to reach the thickness, let's say it's 5 millimeters or 6 millimeters, it's important that it's stable. It's important that it don't start creating stress within the material, so it starts bending. Because when you place it on the hatch of ours, and if it has stress built in, it can also be transferred to our product, and we don't want to avoid that. So joining the two parts, or bonding the two parts, the veneer and the glue, you have to take the veneer, and also if in the case you're using glue and the base, you have to take all these components into consideration when you're looking at the overall thickness of what you're adding to the Holm products. Again, a good thing is to make a sample on the side and check it after to see and to make sure that you are respecting the thickness. When installing the product into the table, you have the possibility of adjusting for different thicknesses. But as long as you stay below the maximum thickness, then you have marking to do the adjustment both in the height and in the side and also in leveling. Again here an example of the different veneering types that is possible. What we're looking at here is a DB2 monitor that can be veneered as well. It doesn't come with a hatch. It's the monitor with the smallest impact on the table. In these instructions, we also inform about the maximum pressure that you can add to the product. In this case, it's underneath installation, veneering on a DB2. In this case, it's 1 kilo pressure. Other ones are 5. Some can hold up to 20. Sometimes you will have to use pinches to pinch down the veneering to the product to make sure it sticks. We provide all the information needed on the veneering for the different models, the air that we recommend. But as I said, if you feel you want less or you want more air gap between the moving parts of the monitors or dynamic torque or the other Holm product, then you're welcome to do that. But when we design our product, we always try to have a minimum air gap. And that is also reflected in the movements of the product. They are not just opening straight up. They sometimes will lift themselves up a couple of millimeters before they open up. We also try to indicate what not to do. When doing the veneering, if it's your first time, you're always welcome to set up prior to your veneering process a conference call with us, and our engineer can be live with you. We can do it with video as well, so we can see what is going on if that's needed. For the different models, there are different dimensions and so on. And what we do to make sure that we are eliminating the possibilities of having mistakes in cutout and so on is that we do provide dummy units. We're not that big fan of having new working units within the workshop due to the workshop environments. Of course, if it's removed from the workshop and you don't have sawdust and so forward, then it's okay. As long as when the product is being moved, it's being moved carefully, and the protection foam within the monitors and so on are being placed for moving the product. When installing the product, the support that is added do allow you to do the final adjustment if there is variation within the veneering. As I said before, we have different way of controlling the product, and if we are going in to use a veneer with a hidden sensor, then it's important that it's non-conductive. That means it cannot have any type of metal inside or any component of metal inside, and it will give us, it will falsely activate the button, and we cannot control the monitor. The sensors that we're using are intelligent sensors, so they will have one sensibility without veneer. When you add the veneer and you disconnect the power, you put back the power on, the sensor itself will adjust to the veneer that you have added. Again, there are limitations to the thickness of the veneer. We do have different solutions as well. If you need to go to 8 millimeters of veneering, we do have solutions that will allow you to do that. It just requires a bit more woodwork to make sure that the sensor will act as needed. So we give you the instructions how to veneer. It's our idea, of course. If you've been working with wood your whole life, you know much more than we do. We do have some experience within our company. We do give directions. We do give the general dimensions. What happens is when a product is ordered, customized, you receive the drawing that you see here, or a drawing like this that you see here with all the connectivity, also with the area to veneer, and they cut out in the table the brackets that comes with the product, so you can place your inserts into your table. So you have the metric inside of the table where you can screw with metal screws into the inserts within the table. This way, if you was using wooden screw, it would be more difficult to have it accurately, and more complicated too if you should have to remove and replace the brackets themselves. When we do these drawings, some people have asked us, why do I have to put my signature on this kind of information? We simply do that to make sure that the people are aware of the final version. We know that the whole process of selecting the product and doing the design is going forth and back a lot of times, and to make sure that all the things that you want to have in your table is on the drawing. You sign it, you know exactly this what it is, and these are the drawings that you take to your workshop, you take to your table manufacturer. These are the drawings that they use for making the cutout, and then we know that we're all working with the same drawings and not an older drawing that was being used earlier in the process of selecting the product. So it's all about the experience that people have in the boardroom. It's all about making sure that we can communicate in the best possible way. A lot of time we don't remember what is being said, but we remember how we feel. And the better worked a boardroom is, the better the people feel, the better decisions that are made. So that is why we want to remove the audio and video equipment when not in use. So it's time for Q&A. I will just after this slide show you the email address you can contact on as well. If you're not doing it on the Q&As that will come up now, you can contact us at marketing@alberal.com. I'd like to say thank you so much for your time. Please stick for the questions. If you don't have any questions, maybe somebody else have things that you haven't thought of. So let's go to a Q&A. I have my colleague Monse Romeo on the line, and she will be asking the questions from that has come in during our presentation.
Hi, Henrik. Thank you very much for your presentation. We have some questions here, like, for example, you said that the maximum veneer goes from 5 to 8 millimeters. Is there an average dimension, or where does this depend from?
When we say 5, we come from 3 to 8 millimeters, depending a bit on the product. It's always a maximum number that we are talking about. And so if you say, if the product goes up to 8, but you would like to have 5, that fits you better, that will also be fine. But it's not all the products that we can take up to 8 millimeters. Normally, when you're using a wooden veneer, or if you're using a leather upholster, then that's not a problem. You have thickness enough for the base and for your finishing material, your veneer finishing.
Okay, there's another question that says, what happens if we need to take out one monitor for repair? What happens with the veneer?
The veneer sits, if you can allow it and you're not replacing the unit, you let the veneer sit on top of the product, you protect it, and so you can service it locally, or if it's on site, and if it goes back to the factory, you will have to make sure that the veneer is protected, but you can leave it on.
And another one which says, have you done any projects with glass veneer?
I do not know if we have done it, anyone with glass veneer. We have done it with marble, stone on a yard actually. So I think that's pretty close to glass. You can do it with glass as long as you respect the dimension and the maximum weight. The maximum weight is also defined depending on the product. So you have to remember, we have quite a wide range of products, and some of them can hold a bigger weight of veneer than other ones.
Okay, and then we had other questions concerning dynamic share that we have been replying online. And I think that's all. We don't have any more questions, so I think it was pretty clear.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. That means that it must have been clear, or the question will pop up later. You have our contact details, so feel free to contact us if you have any questions, or if you have any ideas, if there's something that you don't find in our program, we'll be happy to have a look at it if it's something we can add to it. So again, thank you very much for your time. We look forward to seeing you another time, hopefully face to face. But thank you very much for your time and have a good week. Thank you.